Cheryl's YouTube, where I break things down much neater, and you can rewind on it and watch it 1,000 times. Anyways, let's talk about Midhavens. Midhaven is God's plan. If you figure out your God's plan, you work on God's plan. Everything else goes right along into the plan. Um, Anyways, let's dive right in. So we're gonna do Capricorn rising. So I'm using a couple things. Okay, I'm using your fixed stars, which is sidereal astrology. Um, you can also kind of do the same process in your Vedic astrology. The process that I'm about to do, the steps. So first thing, you want to check out your Midhaven fixed star degree. You can check it out here. So they got 1, 3, 6, 8, 12, 13, 15, 19, and 25. For you Capricorn, come check those out. Read it for yourself. They help a lot later on. As the more you keep diving into your chart, you can start putting two and two together, and they end up being right anyways when you figure it out like a couple years later. Anyways, let's get right into it. Let's start off with Joan Baez, whatever. Joan Baez. She is a folk music singer. She fought for justice, a bunch of other stuff, and she worked with a bunch of the greats, Bob Marley and Bob Dylan and company. Um, Apparently, she's all of that in a bag of chips. Okay, so hang on. I'm gonna put something else. Okay, I don't know what this is. Sorry, y'all. Let's go back. Anyways, let's break her chart down. A couple of things that I'm going to bring up to you. Her family was amazing. Apparently, her dad became a co-inventor of the X-ray Microsoft, whatever that is. One of her family members was a mathematical physicist. Two of her sisters were also folk singers or something like that. Um, her family are like a long lineage of priests and religious people. Also, I'm not very good at telling these stories. You could come into here and you could look it up. Overall, she also dated some pretty cool people. She had some music there, whatever. She started her music scene. Every time her dad would move is really when her music scene really began, because her dad had to travel all over the world. I mean, well, states and stuff like that, where here it says he worked in some company, Iraq and countries. Yeah. Anyways, she had a couple of breakthroughs, apparently. She also, yeah, pretty much I don't really know anything about her because I never heard her song, so I am not going to lie to you. Okay. We're just using her as an example because she's an interesting person. She did a lot of civil rights movement crap. She protested against the Vietnam War, a bunch of environmental, the war in Iraq. She protested, baby. That is what she liked. She even all the way down to Wall Street 2011. Sheesh. Anyway, she dated Bob Dylan. I thought that was pretty cool. Some guy named David Harris. For those, I don't know who that is. Let me see. David Harris, that man. Okay. All right. Okay. I think they made her story into a lot of movies. And also Steve Jobs. Hey, shout out to her. She had that A1. Anyways, let's go to her chart. First thing you want to take a look at is the Midhaven. Where does it fall? It could fall in the 10th house, which apparently if it does, you're an Aries rising. If it falls in your 9th house, you're a Taurus rising. Now, the 9th house and the 10th house are different. The 10th house is more of something you slowly build, and it has to do a lot with your public image. Now, while the 9th house is more of like a journey that the character takes on life, they go through different chapters of life. Okay, I hope that makes sense. First thing you want to take a look at, first of all, is this black line. And for those that know how to find this, let me show you how to find this very quickly. Excuse me, if you hear that. You want to go to your birth chart. You want to calculate it. And you should get Placidus. And you're going to see something like this. If it falls here, this is my 9th house. If it would have been Aries, this would have been my 10th house. Why? Because you could count it from your ascendant. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now that we got that out the way, you want to take this black line, the dark black line. That's your Midhaven starts there and it goes forward. And it tells you the degree on top of the line. So I have 15 degrees Midheaven. Or for Joan Baez, she has 0 degrees Capricorn Midheaven. Another thing that she has is in her Capricorn house, her sun, which rules being seen, performing, being known for her hair, her entire personality, even her father, which is interesting because her dad was pretty cool and he had a really amazing government job. He invented, first of all, a microscope to zoom in something small. Mercury rules small, right? Excuse me. And apparently, he did this, of course, like his job was important in what he invented, which is something she was known for. That's like her foundation. But that's the first thing that you want to write down. So first thing you want to write down is what is the degree of your Midheaven? We got the 0 degrees, which is a fresh start. 0 degrees is getting to know this energy, which is about the government, the war. She was always involved in every like protest against the government or the ruling systems, because that's what she's known all her life, was the government stuff, right? It also brings the sun or the sun houses in here, which for her would be the 5th house, which the 5th house represents father, school, which a lot of her school and her learnings was controlled by her father. Her father's job, which is 3 degrees, right? I could also controlled where she started performing, because literally, if you read it, if you go back up here, if you do read it, I don't care if you do or not. Joan Baez. Let me see. Let's go back up here. Where you at? Whatever. She starts here. She says her parents, however, were fearful. Blah blah blah. She began practicing the songs, performing them publicly. One of them was in California. It was a youth group, okay, which is Uranus being part of groups. And then she started. Her father got accepted to MIT, so they went from San Francisco to Massachusetts, and that's when she started doing up and coming folk music. Her dad was the where it controlled her, basically her life, because she kept following. She could have stood, right? But her father was a main player in her life. So then what else? We got Mercury. So if you notice, she has Mercury houses, which is the Gemini house, which is her moon in Gemini in the 3rd house, or 2nd house Placidus, 3rd house whole sign. Or the Neptune in Virgo in her 6th house, which is work and health in the daily routine. So for instance, like she had science physicist cousin, excuse me, that was a stuttering moment. Her sisters also perform. Okay, and she also did this. She does debate or is vocal a lot about the injustice or the military or what's going on with the person. Like she's like up in front in your face. The moon is always opposing the 9th house, or Mars is opposing this moon. So look, they're both opposing each other. Okay, so even if we don't get lost there, the second step is once you figure out these 2 planets and what they bring, she plays music. So the 3rd house is moon, and she's creative because she can actually play an instrument. Not everyone can play an instrument. Remember that. So for instance, another thing is, now that you figure out what's going in here, what does it bring into it? Even if you have Neptune up here, let's say you have Neptune. Neptune brings the Pisces energy in here, and whatever your Jupiter is sitting on, in your chart is also going to bring it up here into the 10th house. Same thing for Uranus. You want to take a look at your Aquarius placements if you have any. And then you want to take a look at the Saturn in your chart. You want to, like I said, whatever Aquarius placements you got, you have to unravel it. Let's say you have Venus, go look for the Taurus. It just brings it in here, okay? So you want to do the 11th house, obviously. That's what it would have been if it was that way. Anyways, next step you want to do is the ruler of Capricorn is Saturn. I'm going to repeat it one more time. That way you don't have to rewind. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, no matter what. So what that means is this entire 10th house is whatever Saturn is doing in the chart. So for instance, she has Saturn in Taurus 7 degrees in her 2nd house of the voice, of the family, of the assets that she had. of her principles that she believed in, that she was taught, that she self-taught. This is the self, and then you proceeding forward would be the next step of what you start discovering, right? What you start understanding. The second house is combined with Jupiter, which is this optimism that she has. And the people, Uranus, she has it in a conjunction. I hope that makes sense. So this would come into her 10th house. That's why she wanted to do music, right? Jupiter, that means Saturn is attached to whatever Jupiter rules. So she don't have any Pisces placements, but she has 2 Sagittarius placements would come into her 2nd house. So her belief system, her religion, the morals, things, the teachings of her father that she learned growing up in her family. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And it would bring it here. And again, the 11th house would be here because Aquarius ain't nothing in her 11th house. But she is fighting. She does have a Leo placements that are opposing this 11th house. And she feels very strongly about the government opposing the people, which is literally that. The leaders of society opposing Pluto, trying to take power of the people, 11th house. She's very passionate about that. Plus, she has a very unique voice, to be honest. And even technically, Venus is the closest planet to this Midheaven because it's literally right there, as you can see. She's also known for her music. Remember, she plays music, right? And she's known because of a relationship. Forever, we'll know that she dated Steve Jobs. I hope that was clear. We're going to leave it at this short. If you want to read more about her, you can continue reading. Remember to attach whenever you do put it together. You want to attach what other houses is coming here. So in finality, let's repeat these steps. First, you want to figure out the degree that is in. What number is that? That number is represented by another sign, and it does bring themes of that planet itself, because like for instance, if it would have been 1, it would have been that Mars. Maybe she would have been even more aggressive, whatever, we don't know. She's not that, right? So you want to find out that. Then you want to find out what is containing in that 10th house, or the same sign that your Midheaven is in. So for instance, you want to look at all the Capricorn placement. You want to also, next step is bring those planets that is in this sign. You want to bring in their actual rulers. So like for instance, if you have Sun, you want to bring in Leo. If you have Mercury, you want to bring in Gemini and Virgo up there. Okay. Neptune was about that island. She was all about Vietnam, literally. I hope that makes sense. Then you want to look at what planets you do have really close to your Midheaven. That planet gets striking first, if that makes sense. You get to do that a lot first. Then you want to look for the rulers, the modern ruler and the traditional ruler of this planet. And then where is it located in the chart? And what about that have you already been learning, what you already been seeing in your life? I hope that makes sense, y'all.